self-employed, we are also providing this service. And when by registering as a self-employed, you will pay social contributions, and you will pay social contributions. In this case, you will it's no longer a fixed amount, 25% and 13% like an employee, but it will be based on your income. That's very important if you work as a self-employed, that you have the services, that you hire the services of an accountant, because you have to pay your income tax in Belgium, and it will help you to do so. Very important, if you're not from any EU citizen or not from Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Finland, you need to apply for a professional card. A professional card is like a work permit, but it's for the self-employed. When you work as an employee, it's up to the employer to request a work permit for you. If you work as a self-employed, it's up to you. It's called a professional card, and it has to be done in the region that you are working. So if you want to work in Brussels as self-employed, you have to apply to the Brussels region for your professional card. And watch out, it can take up to 2 to 3 months, and you have to prove your added value for the added value of your business for the professional region, and so on. So just be careful. If you're not from the EU, it can take a while. You cannot start within 2 weeks as a self-employed person. The next options is a combination of working as an employee, as a self-employed person. I have to say that is quite trendy nowadays. We see more and more people registering as a self-employed as a secondary activity. In this case, you work as an employee as a main activity, meaning that you have an employment contract for at least half time. So half time in Belgium means 19 hours. You should at least have a 19 hours contract with an employee. If you only work 10 hours a week, sorry, minimum. If you only work, let's say 13 hours a week, that's the minimum of for an employment contract in Belgium. That's not sufficient. You cannot work as a self-employed as a secondary activity. So at least half time, but you can also work full-time for an employee, and on the side you can launch your own activity as a self-employed. In this case, unfortunately, some formalities also need to be fulfilled. Actually the same as for a self-employed. You need to apply for an enterprise and VAT number, and to apply for your enterprise number, you need to prove that you have some business skills, and the required professional qualifications is the profession is listed, but one more time, it's not applicable in Flanders. Once this is done, you also need to register as a self-employed person and paying social contributions. And probably if you have a question, Johan will cover that. In this case, you will be also taxed on the remuneration that you'll get from your activities as a self-employed person, on top of the taxation on your income tax as an employee. If you're not from the EU, you need to also to apply for a work permit for the self-employed, a professional card. So in this case, you'll get 2 work permits, if I may say. Your employer will apply for a work permit for you as an employee. And on top of that, if you want to launch activity on the side, you also need to apply for a professional card if not from the EU. So in this case, it's quite burdensome. Very important, when your employment contract ends, you have the choice. Either you become a self-employed as main activity. So in this case, you're no longer an employee, and you say, okay, my self-employed activity is gonna be my main activity. In this case, you need to inform the business portal and also the social fund for the self-employed that you no longer self-employed as a secondary activity, as a main activity. You of course stopping your employees' activity, because that's important in Belgium. Is not legally, on a legal point of view, it's not possible to be an employee and a full-time self-employed. Either you're an employee or self-employed, or you're self-employed as a secondary activity. Whatever the reason, you get fired or you decide to resign, to leave your employer, if you have a self-employed secondary activity, you have to make a choice. Either you stop totally your self-employed activities, or you become a full-time self-employed, and some formalities need to be fulfilled. Don't forget about that. Interesting option is possible to be an employee in your home country. So let's say you work in Germany at least half time as an employee, and you have your self-employed activity in Belgium. Self-employed activity as a secondary activity in Belgium is quite possible to do that. Last option, setting up your company. That's the main difference between setting up your own company and working as a self-employed is in this case, you are gonna set up a legal entity. The main advantage of setting up a legal entity that's you protecting, you segregating the company of your the wealth of your company and your personal wealth. As already mentioned, I guess it would be covered by Johan, is mainly a tax issue. If you're quite successful and you're earning a lot as a self-employed person, I think it's worth setting up a legal company and no longer working as an individual. It's compulsory to go through a notary to set up your company. You'll have to draft and to publish the articles of the company in the Belgian Gazette. It's highly recommended to hire with a tax advisor and accountant, mainly because they will advise you on the expenses that can be deducted. And you'll see it's very important in Belgium. And also it will help you determine how much you're gonna pay yourself. Because let's say that your company make 8,000 euro per month. I don't think it's worth that you remunerate yourself 8,000 euro per month because you will be heavily taxed. So you have to find the right compromise with your tax advisor, your accountant, to know how much you should pay yourself through your company and what you should do with the money that you still have in your company, maybe investing in a pension fund scheme or other stuff. Very important, the law has just been changed a couple of months ago. There is no more minimum capital. It used to be 12,500 euros. Now it's no longer needed. So technically speaking, you could only put €1 in your company, but probably that you will face some difficulties with the bank. For instance, if you want to buy a car, if you don't have any capital in your company, maybe they will not feel comfortable lending you money to buy your car. So you should have a discussion with one more time with your accountant or legal advisor to agree what's the minimum capital you should invest in your company when starting. There is no longer this minimum capital of 12,500 euro. But of course, the main question, if I start my activity as a self-employed person, should I set up a legal entity? Should I start as an individual? Should I start as an individual and after a couple of months of years, should I set up a legal entity? Is mainly a tax issue that will be covered by Johan. Of course, some formalities. You need to apply for an enterprise number and a VAT number. It's very important that in Belgium, the manager of the company, based on the article of the company, is treated as a self-employed person. You cannot be both the manager of the company and employee of your own company. That's not possible. So if you set up a company, you're no longer an employee, you are self-employed persons. So you need to apply through a business portal and to get registered as a self-employed person. So one more time, you need to prove that you have some business skills. It can be proven through a copy of your diploma. If the profession that you want to start, let's say you want to open up a restaurant, is listed, you have to prove that you have the required qualification to start up this business. You also need to register as a self-employed, paying social contributions, and the social contribution in this case will be calculated on the amount that you're remunerating yourself through a company. Just one more time, it's very important that you have a chat with your accountant to discuss how much you should pay yourself, because the more you pay yourself, the more you'll pay the social contribution that you'll pay will be higher. If you're not from the EU or from Switzerland, Norway, you also need to apply for a professional card. It's one more time, it's like a work permit for the self-employed, because if you set up your company, you are self-employed, so you need to apply for a professional card. And when your business is successful, what I hope for you, after a couple of weeks, of a couple of months, you will have enough cash on the bank account of your company. You can start paying yourself. So in this case, you need to be affiliated to a payroll provider. We also provide this service, and we will calculate the income tax that you have to pay based on your remuneration. So one more time, it's very important that with your accountant, you agree how much you want to pay yourself, because the more you pay yourself, the more you'll be taxed in Belgium, because the tax rate is progressive in Belgium, and you quite easily reach the rate of 50%. 50%. In Belgium, whatever you work, except if you work as whatever you do, except if you work as a volunteer. So if you work as an employee, as a self-employed, as a secondary activity, or if you set up your own company, you will pay social contributions. The social contribution will pay on your income, on your income. For an employee, it's be calculated on your monthly gross salary. If you work as a self-employed, it will be calculated on a quarterly base. It will be based on your income if you're self-employed. So all your income, on the total amount of your income, you have to pay social contribution as a self-employed. I've just explained, if you set up your own company, it will be based on the remuneration that you paying yourself. Good news, if you set up your own company, you will be treated as a starter, and you will pay minimum social contribution of, roughly speaking, 450 euros per quarter. But be careful, if you're quite successful and if you're paying yourself a bit more, you should talk to your accountant to make sure that you're adapting the social contribution that you're paying. What do you get in return? Quite often, people working in Belgium complain and paying a lot of social contribution. So let's see what you get in return. If you work as a self-employed, you have a basic social protection. You have, in case of working incapacity, you will get some allowance. In case of paternity and maternity leave, you will get child benefits and retirement benefits, but they are quite limited. If you work as a self-employed, a secondary activity, hopefully for you as an employee, you will get the full protection of the social security, but on top of that, you can also get some benefits. So it's very important that if you not work as an employee in Belgium, if you're self-employed, that on top of the coverage of the protection of the social security, that you also apply for extra insurances like health insurance, pension scheme insurance. But I'm sure that Eleanor has already covered this topic, or will cover it in the next months. So if you work as a self-employed, do not, even if you're paying social contribution, do not only rely on the protection of the Belgian social security. You should add up extra protection, and of course you have to pay for that. And last but not least, when you're paying social contribution, either through your employer or directly yourself as a self-employed, you need to be registered to a health fund, a mutual. I've really noticed in the past that some expats are not registered by a health fund because they have an extra pension, because they have an extra hospitalization insurance. Quite say, yes, I don't need to register to a mutual because I have DKV, but it's something else. It's compulsory in Belgium to be registered as to a mutual, and that's a personal decision. It's not up to your employer to do it for you. You have to pick up which mutual you want to work with. One more time, as to Bright Expat to guide you, but that's very important because you paying social contribution, but if you're not affiliated to a mutual, you cannot enjoy the protection of the Belgian social security. That's it. Here you have my details, so don't hesitate to ask your question today or to drop me an email later on. Eleanor?
Yes, thank you, Hugues. Thank you very much. That is a hard topic made easy. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, many topics to cover in 25 minutes.
Yes, but at least it gives the impression that it is feasible, or to overview. Thank you, Hugues. And again, if you have questions, I do not see any question in the chat box. So please feel free if you have any. If questions are popping into your mind in the next days, you can ask them to Hugues on the email address that he mentioned on the last slide. Because I'm talking, I'm not sure you can see the address again, so I will post it.
Or people can also send you the questions.
Yes, yes. And anyway, you will receive the PowerPoint in the next days. So I have a thank you note from Malcolm. Malcolm found a very clear and informative presentation. Do you have any other question? You're welcome. No, looks like it was
so clear.
It was clear enough for everyone. So thank you all for joining. Patricia is also thanking you, Hugues, and Hélène Jacob from the Commission of Brussels. So it was very nice to meeting you online once more. I truly hope we will get back together physically in not next year, sometime next year. You will anyway receive the program of next year presentations and conferences before the end of the year. And I wish you all the best. We'll keep in touch. Take care. Bye.